course, is YouTube Live. It happens to be Saturday, April the 11th, 2026. And I am so glad to spend some time with you today. And I want to remind you of the difference between what people will remember and what you think people will remember about you. Now, it's important to understand that when you are dealing with people and when people actually remember about you, we think that, of course, people will remember our job title, what we have actually done all our lives. But here is a particular reality, and I'll experience from my own life to kind of bring it into perspective. For 13 and a half years, I was the morning man on AM 930 The Light, a radio station. I had been indispensable for about 13 and a half years every morning, Monday through Friday, from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. Or 8 a.m., I was on the radio encouraging people, giving them news and good news, etc., etc. And I did that for 13 and a half years. And there were many, many times where my PD would say to me, "You are just an indispensable part of what we are doing here at this radio station." And it was very, fulfilling. And also, as well, it was a wonderful time of my life. But the reality of where I was just a couple of days before I decided to retire from AM 930 The Light. It was a Thursday noon, and all the different people that were involved with AM 930 The Light, they had come to have a special retirement dinner with me. So we had pizza, and we, for about an hour, just, had a wonderful time. They gave me a parting gift, and they all, said it was wonderful to have me as part of the station. But then at 1 o'clock, everyone went back to, of course, their position. They went back to work. And at the end of that luncheon, the reality of what had happened was, of course, there for me. All of a sudden, I realized that, you know what? I was replaceable. On the Monday morning, there would be a brand new anchor, a brand new morning man for the morning show. They would rename the morning show to some, Mornings with Les. And of course, that was perfectly fine. But in that moment, I remembered that, in just a few days, my so-called identity as the morning man of AM 930 The Light would end. And then all of a sudden, I realized I was totally replaceable. And that's actually, of course, the reality. If you work for somebody, after you leave, somebody else is going to, of course, do your job. And so your job title is not as important as you really think it is. Or also, as well, people are not going to remember how busy you were. So many times we fill our lives with all kinds of activities and all kinds of things that we think are so important. So people ask you, "How are you?" You say, "Hey, I'm just super busy." And the reason we do that is because we don't really know what to do with ourselves when we are, of course, not busy. It's interesting that, actually taking a rest is really hard for people. And I'll explain that. When I had been busy doing ministry for about 13 years, and then all of a sudden, I wasn't doing it anymore. And all the activities that I had been so involved in for so many years, all of a sudden, I wasn't doing it anymore. And I began to realize that I had been busy doing all this stuff. And what I was doing was my identity in my vocation. But all of a sudden, I wasn't doing it anymore. And I had to fill my life with other things. Now, fortunately, I have done that and I've learned to walk with that. But all of a sudden you end up, busy at your vocation and busy doing things that you are all of a sudden important. And you realize, hey, maybe, just maybe, I've been so busy to fill my life because, I'm a little bit afraid of not being able to rest and do something. And I remember my wife saying to me, she says, you go and do something because you're getting annoying. I remember when I was on a 7-month sabbatical when I was younger and I had been so busy doing things, in my vocation that all of a sudden I was around and my wife said to me, you're driving me crazy because, basically you don't know what to do with yourself. And that is what a lot of people find themselves in when all of a sudden they're not doing their job. When you become unemployed, for example, you find that all the things that you did with your vocation, all of a sudden, you don't know what to do yourself. And then you have to make a transition and you have to make a change. And that's why, of course, people who are involved, especially in unemployment and giving counsel to people to unemployment, it says you got to find a hobby. You got to find something that fulfills your life. One of the funniest characters that I know in the rock music is a guy with whose name is Alice Cooper. Now, Alice Cooper, of course, is well known in the rock community for his, kind of genre that he particularly fulfills. But you know what Alice Cooper does when he's not touring? He goes and plays golf every day. That's right. He'll play 18 or 36 holes of golf every day because he simply said, if I stay home, I'm going to drive my family completely crazy. So he says, I have my projects at home. He says, when I'm not touring or not in the studio, he says, I go play golf. He says, because I know I'm going to drive my wife nuts. I know when I, left the job at AM 930 The Light, I decided to work on my house over the summer, and that gave me something to do. But people will not remember how busy you are. Also, as well, they will not remember the car that you drive. It was interesting. Yesterday, my neighbor, who is, an ex-military man, he also works with the Canadian Legion. He's a volunteer at the Canadian Legion. And he said to me, hey, we're having a show and shine for cars, older cars, because I have a 1965 GMC truck. And he said, when that show and shine happens, he says, you can bring your truck over and you can display it for free. Because usually show and shines cost $10 to display your truck. He says you can even put a sale sign on if you want it. I said, I don't want to sell my truck, but I understand. So you see, people will not remember what you drive. They also remember how, big your team was or what type of employer you were, if you were an employer, or, all these different things. People are not going to remember those things because at the end of the day, the things that you do, the cars that you drive, the house that you live in, the different things that we think are so important, you know what? People will not remember that. I remember when my wife and I were downsizing from our condo to a 1,200 square foot home. There was a lot of stuff that we had that we needed to, distribute. So we had a conversation with all our children and said to them, would you like this stuff or that stuff? Well, we found out that our children didn't care one little bit about all the stuff that we had. I had a very large library. If you notice behind me, I have a library. In this space, I have all kinds of books. I have about, 15 to 1,700 books in this space where I do my broadcasts. I used to have a library of almost 4,000 books, was of course, complementing what I did at the time. Well, I had to have a conversation with my son, my youngest son, who is basically doing the same thing that I'm doing. And, also as well, he's a farmer, so he does a couple of things. Anyway, I talked to him about the books. He says, Dad, I don't want your books. Finally, I was able to talk to him about taking my books. And he did take those books, and they are in a couple places in his house, and he does use them. But the reality was that I literally had to beg him to take these books. And I found out very quickly that the things that I thought were so important materially have no effect on my children. And the reason, of course, is they have built their own lives and they have built their own homes with the things that they like. So it's very interesting that people will never remember your job title, how busy you are, what kind of different accoutrements that you have, whether it's a car or a house or land, whatever. Those things people will not remember. But what they will remember is, first of all, could they rely on you? Are you there for them? That's very important. People are looking for people who will stay with them through the thick and through the thin. They want to know that if you will follow through with what you say you are going to do. If you're going to say you're going to do something for someone, you better follow through. It almost has to be a major excuse of why you cannot do what you do. And one thing that I've noticed, especially with children or grandchildren, if you say you're going to do something, you better follow through. And the reason that you should follow through is because when you don't do that, people begin to think maybe they're not as truthful and as honest as they say they are. A perfect example of that was years ago, our church had a church choir. Now, this is pretty typical of what goes on in volunteer organizations. We said that we had to sing at a particular choral festival in a couple of months. And so we formed a church choir, and about 40 people showed up. Well, by the time we did that choral festival, there were only 12 people in the choir. The reason being is people find out very quickly that anything of value is often hard work. And of course, preparing the songs that we were going to sing for this choral festival required a lot of activity and a lot of commitment. And a lot of people were not willing to do that. And that is often the signature of many people's lives. They are long on delivery, but short on, of course, doing what they say they're going to do. They say, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then they find 1,000 excuses of not being able to do what it is that they said they were going to do. And this reflects on people around them. They begin to say, you can't rely on somebody. And a simple thing, for example, is there are people that we all know who seem to be late for everything, and they have 1,000 reasons why they are late. But the reality of the situation is they don't value what they are doing. And so they figure that they can waltz in anytime they want, and everyone's going to be happy about it. Well, for example, if you have an employer and he expects you to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, if you are not there at 8 o'clock in the morning in a consistent manner, you're not going to have a job very long, because there are certain expectations that people put on you. And the first thing that people want to know is, can they rely on you? They will remember your punctuality. They will remember the fact that if they asked you to do something and you said that you were going to do it and you did it, those are the type of things that people will remember about you. They will remember your dependability. They will remember your reliability. They will remember those character issues, because punctuality and reliability is actually a characteristic or a character strength, not a flaw. So that's something that they will remember. Also, as well, they will remember if you tried to listen. 80% of good communication is all about the ability to be able to listen. James puts it in this perspective in James 1:19. He says simply this, be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to answer. So, or quick, slow to speak. Let's try again. Uh, Quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. So basically, what James is saying, listen with your two ears. In fact, God gave us two ears and one mouth, and it tells us a lot about that. Listening to people's story is something that people will remember. They'll remember that the fact that you took time, whether it was, on a call, whether it was a at home visit, it was a chat in the grocery store, they will remember that you listened to what they had to say. I'm coming into, of course, motorcycle season. Yesterday was pretty warm where we were, and a couple of times I saw people on motorcycles. Today, after I go to the city and come back, I'm going to go to my daughter's place and I'm going to go and put the battery charger on my motorcycle so that I can, try it out and see if it works. And then when the next really warm day, I'm going to take my motorcycle out for a run in the country, which will be fun. Now, also, as well, I have some friends which I call my biker buddies. And I've been able to establish relationships with them because I will listen to what they have to say. I often listen to their stories because they always have a story when it comes to their motorcycle or also certain aspects of their lives. And I will listen to what they have to say. And I'm able to develop relationships with them because I just listen to what they have to say. And of course, when people know that you are safe, that you're not going to, blab or gossip about what you hear, that you're going to keep confidentiality, that is something that they're going to remember about you. And that's also a very important quality as well, confidentiality, that you keep to yourself what people share with you, because that is an issue of trust. People want to know that what they share with others is not going to be talked about in the marketplace or talked about with someone else. You and I are absolutely, when it comes to people sharing their story with us, we should be as silent as the grave, as one Jane Austen movie put it. People will remember how you listen to them. Also, as well, people will remember how you made them feel. Many times I've said over the many years, I've said, listen, people will not always remember, of course, all the things that you had, but they will always remember how you made them feel. So it's very important that we follow a simple rule, and it is found in Matthew chapter 5. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus said, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. That is known as the golden rule. Another way of putting it is simply this: treat people the way that you would want to be treated. And that is always a good rule to follow. Remember, if you treat people the way that you want to be treated, it will go a long way on when people will remember how you made them feel. Like I said, they may not remember all the things that you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And you want them to, of course, feel the best they can with you around. Now, that doesn't mean that you sugarcoat things. That doesn't mean that you can't be an accountability partner. But what it means is that your motivation behind everything that you do is empathy, love, and compassion. In fact, in the Gospels, it says that Jesus was moved by compassion. And when you read the Gospels and you look at the life of Jesus Christ, you can see that he made people as comfortable as possible. He didn't sugarcoat anything. And when he had to confront an issue, he confronted the issue head on. But he always did it with the motivation of change. And so when you are interacting with people, remember, you need to walk with love, acceptance, and forgiveness. You need to walk with empathy. You need to walk with compassion. You need to walk with love. And when you do that, people will remember, even if you had to say something that wasn't pleasant. But the way that you frame it, and you say to them, the reason why I'm bringing this across is because there needs to be some change in your behavior on this particular issue. There was a book that came out years ago called 1 Minute Manager. And the 1 Minute Manager said simply this: if you have to have a direct conversation with someone, separate them from what they did. Make them feel, yes, you appreciate them and that they're important, but what they did was wrong. And then that's the issue. And you stay on that issue. You don't in any way demean them. You don't in any way put them down, but you do confront the issue of what they did. And that's what people are going to remember. You know, if you are an employer, for example, and you have to confront an employee on an issue, or you're in HR, you separate them from who they are and what they did. You compliment them on what they are doing, but then you also address the issue in which you are addressing. And it's not pleasant to be, taken down a notch by, but people will remember how you were able to still, even in a difficult conversation, be able to get your point across. Always, people will always remember how you made them feel. If you, for example, have a cutting tongue, and if you feel that you need to accuse somebody or a gossip, you're going to make them feel bad. But of course, if you are speaking encouragement into their lives, I have a friend who every time I see him, he's an encourager. I remember watching this particular man at a family reunion and how he went from person to person and listened to their story and chatted with them. It was a beautiful demonstration of human nature, of how everyone in that particular situation felt that this man cared about what they were about and who they were. That is a special art. It's a special quality. And it's a quality that every single one of us can develop. It's a quality of making people, as one movie put it, a gentleman or a lady always makes those around them feel as comfortable as possible. So be a gentleman or be a lady. Also, as well, people will always remember how you treated them. Okay. And that's kind of what I talked about, how you made them feel. People will always remember how you treated them. Did you treat them with kindness? Did you treat them with love? Did you treat them with caring and empathy and sympathy? Those are the type of things that people will remember. Did you encourage them? Did you make them feel comfortable? These are the things that people will remember. They won't remember your car. They won't remember your house. They won't remember all your toys, but they will remember how you made them feel, how they could rely on you, how that you listened to them, and how you treated them. These are the things that people will remember. So that's my encouragement for you today. In your daily activity, look for these things and how to treat people around you, how people will remember that. And when you are not around, they will remember these things. They'll remember that they could rely on you, that you were a person, I should say, that, followed through, that you were a person that could be trusted. They will remember how you made them feel. They'll remember if you tried to listen to their story and you were empathetic in that way. And they will always remember how you treated them. This is my encouragement for your daily activity with people around you today. The things that we think are important really are not that important. But remember, and I love this one line from Patch Adams, where Robin Williams says, if you invest in people, you'll always win. So that's my encouragement for you today. So, Lord, today, throughout this day, Help us to be the best version of ourselves, especially when dealing with other people. Let us today be kind and loving. Let us be people that are dependable and reliable, that will try to make them as comfortable as possible by being a lady or a gentleman to them. Let us listen to their story, and let us be people that, listen with our ears and not listen just to reply. And lastly, let us treat those around us with the same compassion and love that we ourselves would want to be treated to. Well, my name is Robert Dean Steele, and I always say this: if you like what you're hearing and seeing, always press the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel. So many of you have done that, and I certainly appreciate it. Also, as well, every day I do YouTube shorts. It means every day I put on, different videos that, of course, are under usually a minute, and they are usually one thought. And you can check those out as well. And many of you do that, and I appreciate that. To all who watch me on this channel, thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for liking what I have to say and the content, and also as well viewing the different things that I do. My name is Robert Dean Steele. Thank you for joining me today. Have yourself a great and godly day. And remember, be the best version of yourself around people, because that's what they're going to remember. Have yourself a great and godly day.